Well, thank you. Thank you for your testimony. I'll now recognize myself for 5 minutes for purposes of a question. I'll begin with you, Mr. Gibson, on behalf of the Federal Reserve. The Basel Committee's charter requires a public consultation process for all Basel standards. Yet in May 2022, the Basel Committee, without public consultation, altered the GSIB surcharge for the largest banks, but specifically for European Union banks. The net result was, for European GSIBs, European large banks, there's a 50 basis point reduction in their capital surcharge. Are you aware of this? Oh.
Yes.
Okay. At the time, there were several critics of this secretive change to the GSIB framework, including the progressive group Better Markets, who described the Basel Committee as shamefully lowering capital requirements for European banks without public input. Does the Federal Reserve believe that there was public input in that process?
You're asking if the Basel Committee put that change out for public comment? I don't know. I don't remember.
You don't remember? Okay.
On that particular change, I can check and get back to you.
So it was the most significant change in capital surcharges until the next set of negotiations at the Basel Committee, which resulted in much higher capital surcharges for U.S. banks, which is now going through the Federal Reserve process and all the regulators for this additional Michael Barr approach to new capital standards. So how does the Federal Reserve reconcile relaxing European large bank capital surcharges and yet the next negotiation increasing U.S. capital surcharges on our U.S. domestic banks?
So with respect to the GSIB surcharge, it was one of the post-2008 financial crisis.
No, this is 2022. That is a decade after the financial crisis. Let's not misdate this. That's what I'm asking about, is 2022 and then last year.
So in the U.S., we, the Federal Reserve, have proposed some modifications to the GSIB surcharge.
I'm aware of that. I'm asking about the Basel Committee and the name of this committee hearing on the international coordination. The justification the vice chair of the Fed said was the Basel standards we have to implement. That's the justification. So that's why I'm asking about this international coordination.
So we do coordinate at the Basel Committee on common approaches to things like the GSIB surcharge, but we implement them domestically according to our own rulemaking process.
Okay, I understand that. But you then negotiate those standards internationally and have agreement internationally. That's what the Basel Committee does. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this is what I'm trying to highlight for members here, right? So let me ask you, who attends these Basel committee on behalf of the Federal Reserve? Do you have a designated staff?
So I attend the Basel Committee meetings, and Chair Powell and Vice Chair Barr attend the oversight body of governors and heads of supervision.
Okay. So was there a vote on this question of the European Union GSIB surcharge, the reduction in capital standards? Was there a vote at the Basel Committee on that?
The decisions aren't voted on, they're by consensus.
By consensus, okay. So you put out reports, but we don't know relative opinions, the Federal Reserve's view, the FDIC's view, the OCC's view. What we get is just the result in these disclosures. I'm asking about what U.S. nationals are doing on behalf of implementing financial policy and the opinions going in and the results coming out, which we don't have disclosures on.
So in the example that you're citing of the discussions in the Basel Committee around the changes to the GSIB surcharge, the way we would handle that is that I would brief my principal, Vice Chair Barr, about what the discussions are at the Basel Committee, and nothing's that's done in the Basel Committee is binding on us, but we do want to give good input, and we would give our input into those discussions.
Okay, so this is the basic question for all regulators. When we send the U.S. trade representative out internationally, we know who's negotiating for us. There are disclosures back to Congress on implementing trade laws. We have financial regulators that are implementing stuff that is even more impactful than trade negotiations, that have a direct bearing on domestic lending to small businesses and families and mortgages. and yet we have no disclosures on it. We have no equivalent disclosures on it. That's the driving question here. And so that's the reason why we have this hearing. This is what I want to highlight. This one example with the Fed, lowering European bank capital standards, and in the same breath, in the same committee, internationally, raising U.S. capital standards in the next set of meetings. And yet we have no justification for this, nor the relative opinion of the Federal Reserve. So with that, I'll now recognize the ranking member, Ms. Waters, for 5 minutes.